Have you ever felt that your relationship is no longer the same? Are you still in love, or just afraid of being alone? Are you desperately trying to revive something that's already dead? These are hard questions, but they matter. Love doesn't die in a single day. It fades away through small, seemingly insignificant actions, the lack of a touch, an ignored conversation, a growing distance you can't explain. Before you realize it, what once felt like home now feels like a prison. The truth is, many people stay in relationships not because they are still in love, but because they are afraid of change, afraid of loneliness, afraid of making the wrong decision. But avoiding the truth doesn't change reality. So today, we're going to confront this truth together. We'll expose the clear signs of a dying relationship, the warning signals you should never ignore, and, most importantly, we'll answer the ultimate question. When should you fight to save your relationship, and when is it time to walk away? If you've ever had a nagging feeling that something isn't right, stay with me. This video may give you the clarity you've been searching for. Before we begin, I want to hear from you. Have you ever ignored a red flag in a relationship? Share your experience in the comments below. Let's dive in. Happiness is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. But what if the person who should bring you joy only makes you feel emptier? Imagine this: you walk through the front door after a long day. You expect warmth, a moment of connection, but instead, all you feel is nothing. You sit next to your partner, but it feels like you're sitting with a stranger. Conversations are shallow, forced, or worse, non-existent. You tell yourself it's just a phase. That all relationships go through ups and downs. But deep down, you know something is different. This isn't just a temporary rough patch. This is a pattern. Happiness in a relationship isn't about grand romantic gestures, it's about the little things. The inside jokes, the shared glances, the comfort of knowing you're truly seen. When these moments start disappearing, and loneliness creeps in even when you're together, that's a serious red flag. So ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly happy in this relationship? Do you feel more drained than fulfilled? If the answer is yes, then it's time to stop ignoring what your heart already knows. A relationship should never feel like a prison. It should be a place where you feel valued, loved, and most importantly, happy. If that happiness has faded, it's time to reevaluate. Before we continue, I want to hear from you. Have you ever stayed in a relationship even when you weren't happy? What held you back from leaving? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep going. Have you ever had a feeling deep in your gut that something wasn't right? That unshakable sense of discomfort, like a silent alarm going off in the background? Maybe you can't put it into words. There's no clear evidence, no big fight, no obvious betrayal. But something inside you is whispering, this isn't right. You ignore it. You tell yourself you're overthinking, being too sensitive, or even paranoid. You justify their behavior, making excuses. Small blue diamond, they're just stressed. Small blue diamond, maybe I'm expecting too much. Small blue diamond, every relationship has its rough patches, right? But here's the truth, your intuition is a gift. Psychologists call it subconscious pattern recognition. Your brain picks up on tiny, almost imperceptible changes in tone, body language, and behavior. Things that you may not consciously register, but your intuition does. And when your intuition is screaming at you, it's for a reason. Real-life example. You notice they've been distant. Their answers are shorter. They stop sharing their thoughts and feelings. You tell yourself it's just a phase, but that uneasy feeling inside you grows stronger. Then, one day, the truth comes out. Maybe they've been losing feelings. Maybe they've been unfaithful. Or maybe they simply stopped caring a long time ago, but you felt it before you knew it. So, what should you do? Small blue diamond, stop dismissing your feelings. Your intuition is trying to protect you. Small blue diamond, reflect on your experiences. When did this feeling start? What has changed? Small blue diamond, look for patterns. Have you ignored similar warnings in past relationships? Small blue diamond, have an honest conversation. Ask your partner what's really going on. A relationship built on love and respect will survive open communication. But if your partner dismisses or gaslights you for your feelings, that itself is a red flag. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever ignored your gut feeling in a relationship? What happened? Share your story in the comments. Let's move on to the next sign. Do you remember when being together felt effortless? When laughter came easily, and even small moments felt special. But now, those moments are rare. The silence is heavier, and the good times feel like distant memories. If 80% of your time is spent arguing, feeling hurt, or walking on eggshells, and only 20% is filled with joy, that's a dangerous imbalance. A healthy relationship doesn't mean never having disagreements. But when conflict becomes the norm and happiness becomes the exception, something is deeply wrong. A real-life example. Imagine a couple who used to love spending weekends together, planning trips, sharing meals, and laughing at inside jokes. Now, those weekends are filled with cold silences, passive-aggressive remarks, and arguments over the smallest things. Even when they try to have fun, tension lingers. At some point, it stops being about love and starts being about endurance. Why does this happen? Relationships don't crumble overnight. They deteriorate slowly. Small blue diamond, resentment builds from unresolved conflicts. Small blue diamond, affection is replaced with routine. Small blue diamond, communication turns into confrontation. Small blue diamond, you no longer look forward to seeing them, you dread it. And worst of all, you start romanticizing the past because the present feels empty. What can you do? White heavy checkmark, assess the balance. Are your good times truly outweighing the bad, or are you just holding on to memories? White heavy checkmark, break the cycle. If every interaction ends in conflict, take a step back and reset the tone. White heavy checkmark, communicate honestly. Ask your partner, do you feel happy with me? Sometimes, just hearing the answer can be eye-opening. White heavy checkmark, don't settle for crumbs. Love should bring more peace than pain, more joy than stress. If your relationship is mostly struggle, you're not in love, you're in survival mode. Ask yourself, are you staying for the person they are today, or for the person they used to be? Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like you were just enduring a relationship? Comment below. Let's move to the next sign. There was a time when you cared, when their words could lift your spirits or cut you deeply. But now, you feel numb. Conversations feel like formalities. The love that once felt so alive is now a distant memory. Or worse, you feel like you're disappearing in your own relationship. You're there, but unseen. Present, but unheard. Like a ghost in your own life. The dangerous shift, from passion to indifference. Love doesn't always die in a dramatic explosion, it often fades in silence. When two people stop choosing each other every day, the connection erodes. Small blue diamond, you no longer share your thoughts, your wins, or your struggles. Small blue diamond, you stop asking how their day was, because you already know the answer won't matter. Small blue diamond, you don't argue anymore, not because things are good, but because you've given up. Example. Imagine you used to text them first thing in the morning and before bed. Now, the silence stretches for hours, even days. You used to tell them about your dreams, your worries, your frustrations. But now, when something happens, you don't even think about telling them anymore. That's not love. That's emotional detachment. Why this happens? Keycap 1, emotional withdrawal. One or both partners have stopped putting effort into the relationship. Keycap 2, resentment accumulation. Unresolved conflicts create an emotional wall. Keycap 3, lack of reciprocity. When one person is doing all the emotional work, exhaustion sets in. Keycap 4, avoidance. It's easier to ignore the discomfort than to confront it. How to fix it? if it's not too late. White heavy checkmark recognized the emotional distance. Ask yourself, am I still invested in this relationship? White heavy checkmark break the cycle of indifference. Even a simple, hey, how was your day, can start rebuilding a lost connection. White heavy checkmark have a raw, honest conversation. If they don't even care enough to engage, that's your answer. White heavy checkmark if they still care, make a plan to reconnect. Spend time together intentionally, not just by default. When it's time to leave. If you've tried, if you've reached out, if you've fought for connection and received nothing in return, you have your answer. Ask yourself, am I staying because I love them, or because I'm afraid of letting go? I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt invisible in your own relationship? Comment below. Let's move to the next sign. Sign number 5, lack of intimacy and affection. When was the last time they held your hand? When was the last time you kissed, not a quick peck, but a real, meaningful kiss? If physical closeness has faded, it's not just about touch. It's about emotional distance manifesting in the body. The silent decline of physical intimacy. Love is more than words. It's in the way two people reach for each other, in the way they find comfort in each other's touch. When that disappears, something deeper is happening. Small blue diamond, you sit on opposite ends of the couch. Small blue diamond, you don't hug spontaneously anymore. Small blue diamond, they pull away when you try to initiate touch. At first, you don't notice. Then one day, you realize, you feel more like roommates than lovers. Example. A woman once shared that her husband used to always put his hand on her lower back when they walked together. She never thought much of it, until one day, it stopped. Years later, she realized that small change was the first sign that he had emotionally checked out. Why does this happen? Keycap 1, unresolved conflicts, past fights create invisible walls. Keycap 2, emotional detachment, when love fades, so does the desire for closeness. Keycap 3, routine kills passion, the relationship shifts from connection to coexistence. Keycap 4, attraction has faded, one or both partners no longer feel drawn to each other. Can you fix it? White heavy checkmark, talk about it. If you feel the loss of intimacy, bring it up, not with blame, but with curiosity. I miss the way we used to be. Do you? White heavy checkmark, reignite affection. A simple touch, a lingering hug, a sincere compliment, small things can rebuild lost intimacy. White heavy checkmark, address underlying issues. If resentment is present, no amount of forced physical intimacy will fix it. Heal first. When it's time to walk away. If your attempts to reconnect are met with coldness or avoidance, you have to ask, is this what I want for the rest of my life? Intimacy isn't just physical, it's about closeness, connection, and effort. When that's gone, love may already be over. Have you ever experienced this shift? Let me know in the comments. Let's move on to the next sign. Sign number 6, you always feel like you need more space. At the beginning of a relationship, being together feels natural. You crave their presence. You share moments effortlessly. But now, you find yourself preferring solitude. You invent reasons to be alone. You cherish the silence when they're not around. Small blue diamond, do you take the long way home just to delay seeing them? Small blue diamond, do you feel relief, instead of excitement, when they cancel plans? Small blue diamond, do you prefer texting over talking in person? If you feel more at peace alone than with them, this isn't just about needing space. It's emotional withdrawal. The hidden meaning behind this feeling. Wanting alone time isn't bad. But when solitude feels like an escape rather than a recharge, something is wrong. Keycap 1, your subconscious is protecting you. If you feel drained rather than fulfilled after spending time together, your mind may be signaling emotional exhaustion. Keycap 2, resentment has built up. If unresolved issues linger, you may instinctively distance yourself rather than confront the problem. Keycap 3. The relationship is no longer fulfilling. If you feel indifferent to their absence, it means emotional investment has faded. Example. A man once shared that he started working late, not because he loved his job, but because home felt heavier than the office. He realized he was avoiding his partner, even though he hadn't fully admitted it to himself yet. This is a dangerous stage, when silence replaces arguments, when avoidance replaces effort. Can this be fixed? White heavy checkmark. Ask yourself, am I avoiding them, or am I avoiding a conversation I need to have? White heavy checkmark. Reignite connection intentionally. If the distance comes from routine boredom, small efforts, like quality time, shared experiences, or deep conversations, can help. White heavy checkmark. Address unresolved feelings. Distance often comes from unspoken frustration. A genuine, honest conversation might reveal whether the relationship still has hope. When it's time to walk away. If you no longer want to bridge the gap, if their presence feels like an obligation rather than a desire, then you need to ask. Am I still in this because I love them, or just because I fear being alone? Your peace should never be the price of your relationship. Have you ever felt like you needed more space in a relationship? Let me know in the comments. Let's move on to the next sign. Sign number 7, you start feeling attracted to someone else. Attraction is natural. We're all human. But what if you find yourself thinking about someone else more than your partner? What if their words, their energy, their presence make you feel more alive, while your relationship feels like a routine, an obligation, a fading connection? This isn't about momentary admiration. This is about emotional detachment. Small blue diamond. Do you feel more excitement texting someone else than talking to your partner? Small blue diamond. Do you catch yourself fantasizing about a future that no longer includes your current relationship? Small blue diamond. Do you feel guilty for how easily your attention shifts to others? If this resonates with you, it's time to ask, is my relationship truly fulfilling me? The hidden meaning behind this shift. Attraction to others doesn't always mean your relationship is doomed. But it's a warning. A symptom of deeper issues. Keycap 1. Lack of emotional connection. When you no longer feel seen, heard, or valued, your heart starts looking elsewhere. Keycap 2. Routine has replaced romance. If there's no spark left, your mind naturally craves excitement from outside. Keycap 3. Unmet needs. If your partner no longer provides emotional, intellectual, or physical stimulation, you may unknowingly seek it elsewhere. Example. A woman once shared that she felt guilty because she kept thinking about a coworker. Not because she wanted to cheat, but because he made her laugh, something her partner hadn't done in years. The truth? She wasn't in love with her coworker. She just missed feeling special. And that was the wake-up call she needed. Can this be fixed? White heavy checkmark. Acknowledge your feelings. Don't ignore them. They are trying to tell you something. White heavy checkmark. Reignite intimacy. When was the last time you truly connected with your partner? Try reliving old memories, surprising them, breaking the routine. White heavy checkmark. Communicate honestly. Talk to your partner about how you feel. If they care, they'll listen. If they don't, that's an answer in itself. When it's time to leave. If you no longer desire to fix things, if every effort feels forced, if your heart has already moved on emotionally, then staying is only prolonging the inevitable. You deserve a love that keeps your soul engaged, not just a relationship that fills time. Have you ever found yourself emotionally drawn to someone outside your relationship? Drop a comment below. Let's move to the next sign. Sign number 8, they don't care about your feelings. Love isn't just words, it's action. And one of the clearest signs of love is care. A person who truly loves you will notice when you're down, comfort you when you're struggling, and support you when life gets tough. But what happens when they stop? Small blue diamond. You share your problems, but they barely respond. Small blue diamond. You're crying, but they act like nothing happened. Small blue diamond, you feel like a burden every time you express your emotions. This is more than emotional neglect. This is a sign of disconnection. The pain of being emotionally invisible. There's a difference between someone who is distracted and someone who is truly indifferent. Someone who loves you but is preoccupied will eventually notice your pain and check in. But someone who no longer cares will not even try. Keycap 1, they dismiss your emotions as overreacting or too sensitive. Keycap 2, they change the topic when you try to open up. Keycap 3, they make you feel guilty for having emotions at all. At first, you might justify it. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they didn't hear me. But over time, you start feeling emotionally invisible. Example. A man once shared that every time he told his partner about his struggles at work, she would barely look up from her phone. One day, he said, "I feel like I could disappear, and you wouldn't even notice." She just shrugged. That was the moment he realized he was alone in the relationship. Can this be fixed? Yes, but only if they're willing to change. White heavy checkmark, communicate directly. Tell them, "I don't feel heard. I need to know my emotions matter to you." White heavy checkmark, watch their response. Do they dismiss you? Or do they make an effort? White heavy checkmark, observe actions, not words. Someone who loves you will show up when it counts. When it's time to leave. If they consistently make you feel small, unheard, or unimportant, despite multiple conversations, then they are choosing not to care. And you deserve better. You deserve a love that listens, a love that supports, a love that stands by you. Have you ever felt emotionally abandoned in a relationship? Let me know in the comments. Let's move to the next sign. Sign number 9, you no longer feel like yourself. Love should never feel like a performance. But have you ever caught yourself changing your personality, your interests, even your dreams, just to keep your partner happy? Small blue diamond, you laugh at jokes you don't find funny. Small blue diamond, you suppress your opinions to avoid conflict. Small blue diamond, you walk on eggshells, afraid to be too much or not enough. At first, it may seem harmless. But over time, you start losing yourself. The slow erosion of identity. A healthy relationship encourages you to grow. But a toxic one? It shrinks you. Keycap 1, you censor yourself. Your words, your thoughts, your desires, everything is filtered to match what they want. Keycap 2, you feel drained instead of energized. Instead of being your safe space, your relationship becomes exhausting. Keycap 3, you don't recognize yourself anymore. You look in the mirror and wonder, who am I now? Example. A woman once shared that when she started dating her boyfriend, she was an artist, a free spirit, a dreamer. Over time, she stopped painting, stopped wearing colors he didn't like, even changed how she spoke. One day, she found an old photo of herself smiling, radiant, full of life. And she realized, that girl doesn't exist anymore. Why this happens? People with narcissistic or manipulative tendencies often make you feel that who you are isn't enough. White heavy checkmark, they correct you. White heavy checkmark, they criticize your interests. White heavy checkmark, they reward you only when you behave how they want. So you adapt. But in doing so, you start disappearing. Can this be fixed? Yes, but only if your partner respects your individuality. White heavy checkmark, start expressing yourself again. Even in small ways. White heavy checkmark, notice their reaction. Are they supportive? Or do they resist? White heavy checkmark, set boundaries. You don't need permission to be yourself. When it's time to leave. If you feel trapped in an identity that isn't yours, if you feel like you've been erased, then staying isn't love. It's self-abandonment. You deserve a love where you can be fully, unapologetically you. Have you ever felt like you had to change who you are for a relationship? Let's talk in the comments. Let's move to the next sign. Sign number 10, they no longer put effort into the relationship. Love is a two-way street. A relationship cannot survive when only one person is carrying all the weight. At the beginning, both of you put in effort. You planned dates, made each other feel special, solved problems together. But now, small blue diamond, they stop initiating conversations. Small blue diamond, they don't prioritize spending time with you. Small blue diamond, they don't put effort into resolving conflicts anymore. Instead, you feel like you are the only one trying. When one person stops trying, a relationship is like a fire, it needs both people adding fuel to keep it alive. If one person stops caring, the fire slowly dies. Pushpin example. A woman once said that when she and her boyfriend started dating, he would surprise her with little notes, plan trips, and always make sure she felt loved. Years later, he no longer planned anything. She was always the one to call, to arrange dates, to solve fights. One day, she asked him, "Why don't you try anymore?" His response: "I don't know. I just don't feel like it." That's when she knew, she was fighting for something he had already given up on. Why this happens? There are two main reasons why people stop trying. Keycap 1, they have emotionally checked out but are too afraid to leave. Keycap 2, they are taking you for granted, assuming you will always stay. Either way, it's not fair to you. Can this be fixed? It depends. A lack of effort doesn't always mean the end. Sometimes, people lose motivation due to stress, personal struggles, or routine fatigue. Here's what you can do. White heavy checkmark, communicate clearly. Ask them, do you realize you've stopped putting in effort? White heavy checkmark, give them a chance to fix it. If they acknowledge the problem and want to change, there is hope. White heavy checkmark, look at their actions, not words. If they promise to change but don't take real steps, that's a major red flag. When it's time to leave. If they don't care, don't listen, and don't change, then you need to ask yourself, do I want to spend my life in a relationship where I'm the only one who tries? The most painful thing isn't falling out of love, it's realizing that the other person stopped caring a long time ago. Light bulb, you deserve a love that's mutual, not one-sided. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like the only one trying? Let's discuss in the comments. Let's move to the next sign. Sign number 11, no longer sharing the same life goals. A relationship is not just about love, it's about growing together, building a future that aligns with both partners' values, ambitions, and dreams. But what happens when you and your partner no longer see the same future? Small blue diamond, you want marriage, they don't believe in commitment. Small blue diamond, you dream of traveling the world, they want a stable life in one place. Small blue diamond, you want children, they don't. At first, these differences might seem small. You tell yourself, we'll figure it out later. But the truth is, if your long-term visions don't align, the relationship is on borrowed time. When two paths start to diverge. Relationships thrive when both people walk in the same direction. But if one person is moving forward while the other is standing still, tension builds. Pushpin example. A woman once shared that she had been in a relationship for 6 years with a man who wasn't sure if he wanted marriage. She thought, maybe he just needs more time. Years passed, and he still wasn't ready. He was comfortable, she was waiting. One day, she realized, I can't keep waiting for him to want the same things as me. That was the moment she knew, their futures no longer aligned. Signs that you no longer share the same goals. White heavy checkmark, conversations about the future feel forced or avoided. White heavy checkmark, you keep compromising your dreams to fit theirs. White heavy checkmark, you feel stuck, like you're waiting for them to catch up. These are warning signs that the foundation of your relationship is slowly cracking. Can this be fixed? There's only one solution: open, honest conversations. White heavy checkmark, ask directly, where do you see us in 5 years? White heavy checkmark. Be honest about your needs. If they don't align, don't ignore it. White heavy checkmark. Understand that love is not enough. Compatibility in values and life direction is just as important. When it's time to leave. If you keep pushing your dreams aside to make the relationship work, one day, you might wake up full of regrets. Ask yourself, am I holding on to this relationship because I love them? Or because I'm afraid of starting over? Light bulb. The right partner won't force you to choose between love and your dreams. They'll build those dreams with you. Have you ever been in a relationship where your goals no longer aligned? Let's discuss in the comments. Let's move to the next part. When to stay, when to leave. There comes a moment in every struggling relationship where we must ask ourselves, is this worth saving? Or am I simply holding on because I'm afraid of letting go? Let's be honest, leaving is never easy. But staying in a relationship that drains you is a slow, silent form of suffering. So, how do you know when to stay and fight, and when to walk away? White heavy checkmark. When you should stay and try to fix it. Not every troubled relationship is meant to end. Some can still be saved if both people are willing to change. Light bulb. You should stay if. White heavy checkmark. Both of you still want to repair the relationship. White heavy checkmark. The problems stem from miscommunication, not a lack of respect. White heavy checkmark. Your partner is actively changing, not just making empty promises. White heavy checkmark. There's still genuine love, effort, and a shared vision for the future. Pushpin example. A man once told me that he almost walked away from his marriage because he and his wife had grown distant. They no longer talked, no longer laughed, and barely touched each other. But when they finally sat down and had an open, raw conversation, he realized something. They were both unhappy, but both still wanted to fight for the relationship. They sought counseling. They made time for each other again. And slowly, they reconnected. Because love alone is not enough, you also need effort, commitment, and mutual respect. Police car light. When you should leave. Not all relationships are worth saving. Some will cost you your peace, your dignity, and your sense of self. Light bulb. It's time to leave if. Crossmark. You constantly feel hurt, drained, or emotionally exhausted. Crossmark. Your partner manipulates, lies, or abuses you, physically, mentally, or emotionally. Crossmark. You've already lost yourself in the relationship. Pushpin example. A woman once shared that she stayed in a relationship where she felt invisible. She gave, and gave, yet he never gave back. She stopped recognizing herself because all her energy was spent trying to fix something that was already broken. One day, she asked herself, am I holding on because I love him? Or because I'm afraid of being alone? That was the moment she knew, it was time to go. Because staying in a toxic relationship will never fill the emptiness inside you. Light bulb. The two questions you must ask yourself. Backhand index pointing right. Does this relationship give me energy, or does it drain me? Backhand index pointing right. Could I be happier if I walked away? If the answer is, this is draining me, and, yes, I could be happier, then you already know your truth. Light bulb. Love should not be a battle where only one person is fighting. If you're the only one holding the relationship together, let go. The right person will never make you beg for love. The right person will never force you to shrink yourself just to fit into their life. Backhand index pointing right. Have you ever faced this dilemma, whether to stay or leave? Share your thoughts below. Let's move to the next part. Conclusion. The power to walk away. There is one simple truth. Real love should never have to be begged for. If you constantly feel like you're fighting for attention, for respect, for the bare minimum, then you are not in a relationship. You are in a battle. And at some point, you have to ask yourself, is this battle worth fighting? The harsh reality is that some relationships die long before they officially end. The love, the respect, the shared dreams, all of it fades, piece by piece, while we hold on to a memory of what once was. But here's the truth, you deserve more. You deserve to be in a relationship where you feel valued, seen, and loved. Not one where you are constantly questioning yourself, doubting your worth, and exhausting your soul just to keep things together. Light bulb, a powerful thought to reflect on. Backhand index pointing right. If you have to constantly prove your worth to someone, they are not worthy of you. Backhand index pointing right. If someone makes you feel like you are too much or not enough at the same time, they are not your person. Backhand index pointing right. And if staying in this relationship means losing yourself, it's time to go. Because love should not cost you your peace. Love should not require you to shrink yourself just to fit into someone else's life. Small blue diamond, have you ever experienced a dying relationship? What made you stay? What made you leave? Share your story in the comments below. You never know who you might help. Small blue diamond, if this video gave you clarity, if it helped you in any way, like and share it so it can reach someone who needs to hear this today. Small blue diamond, and if you are still unsure about your relationship, take a deep breath and ask yourself, do I feel free in this relationship, or trapped? Because love should never feel like a prison. Stay strong, stay wise, and always choose yourself first.